how to create and test a product prototype. Now let's get into this because I've had so many clients blow, hundreds of thousands of dollars and have a whole bunch of product or books or whatever invention they did in their garage or in their basement and no ability to sell it. So this was really critical if you want to do a product. And if you don't want to do a product, stay tuned and listen in because there's going to be things I talk about that will relate to just the service side of this, not just the product side. So again, get a pen and paper. There's always an application for what I talk about. So 4 things I'm going to talk about specifically is number 1, how do you get started? Who do you need on your team and in the right sequence of how you need them? How do you actually get the prototype developed? Like what does that whole process take and where do you get the funding? I'm going to talk about all that. And then the last is how do you protect your intellectual property and when do you protect it? All right, so again, pen and paper, let's go. This applies to those of you, even if you have content that is going to become digital. Now I'm going to apply it more towards the prototypes because a lot of people want to start with invention. So let me just give you my first out opinion about starting with a product or an invention or something that's going to cost money to begin. It's harder to pre-sell because you have to kind of vision it, right? So I have a client actually in LA who's actually built a really cool gun and having a heck of a time developing it because he had to build a big prototype, super expensive, and thought he'd have some defense contracts. They didn't come through. Thought he had some other gun manufacturing contracts. Didn't come through. So get as lean as you can while you're testing your prototype. I cannot tell you that enough. Make sure that people really want to buy it. And even if you get pre-sales, it would be fabulous, or even pre-contracts. I helped someone get into Sam's Club and Costco, and they actually had pre-contracts. They used the contract to go get vendor financing. Then they built the whole thing. So how do you start? Well, first of all, I wouldn't start. If this is your first rodeo, I call it, your entrepreneurial venture, starting with an invention or a product is not where I would start. It costs too much money. You need funding. It's a slow road. Pre-sales make it more challenging because they're not quite sure what the thing is or the device will be. Or I've had people actually build entire facial cream lines. A woman in Australia built 9 products in a facial line. I don't know about you women, but I'm not doing 9 things in the morning and at night, maybe 3 or 4. That's why, proactive into some of those that are like super, like the 1, 2, 3 steps work. And so like nobody told her to do it. She just thought it'd be fabulous to have this big thorough line. $150,000 of products sat in the garage and then expired. So I have seen it all from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And most of you are not great entrepreneurs. So I would wait a minute, go out and do something service-based or sell somebody else's stuff. I sold Kiyosaki stuff for years, 5 years before. I sold Proctor stuff. I sold Zig Ziglar stuff. I sold tons of people's stuff to learn how to sell, learned how to be an entrepreneur from 96 to 2000. Then I went on my own. Then I developed my own things. So I would learn to be a good entrepreneur, which means you need to learn marketing, sales, and cash flow. Now, all that said, where do you start if you want a product? Well, first, again, wouldn't have it be your first game. Once you're in and you're a good entrepreneur, if you're corporately set up right and you have corporate funding, you should be able to fund it. Or like I said earlier, there's vendor financing. There's all sorts of ways to get funding or investors into your project so you're not blowing your own principal and cash in case this doesn't really become a great product and doesn't, get out to QVC, HSN, or get to Sam's Club or make a big run. For a lot of you, if you are in what I call that HSN, QVC, kind of home tchotchkes, home different, kind of things, see what else is already out there. Right? I would really, really study your competition, study where they get their product made, buy a lot of products that are going to be similar in class. Like I mentioned, the guy who did the gun, I bet he owned almost, 100 different guns. He owns tons and tons, looking at what's there, what's not there, where was the gap in the market. Think about little stuff like vacuum cleaners and like carpet cleaners, and that's just things for your kitchen. There are so many things that are already produced. Why did they continue to come out with new? It's the distinction. What's the one distinction, the 2 distinctions that you can have in the market for your product and your prototype? If you can get, again, a pre-sale, try it. Now, who should be on this team? Well, number 1, you got to have a heck of a marketing and distribution team because you're going to need to move this product. And if you think you're just going to sell it on the internet all by yourself, it's one way to do it, but that's a costly way unless you can like print or produce on demand. You can get that kind of production, but most of you are going to have to produce 500,000, 5,000, 10,000 units at a time. That means you need a massive distribution arm, and it's not just one, which would be like your website or Shopify store. That's a nice small way to get started, but that's not the game we're talking about. If you're going to do a product and you're going to do a prototype, you better have $1 million revenue plan in this. This isn't, I want to get out of bed to make 100 grand. Like, this is the stuff you go out for 7, 8, 9 figures. You go out for big stuff, not just to, get by. It's too much work and it's too much risk financially for most of you who have never done it before. Who else do you need? You need a funding team. We talked about a few of those sources. If you're corporately structured and you have good credit and you've had a corporation for a while, you could probably get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of 0% funding. And I have several sources. I have one gentleman who's got over 500 funding sources. Another company's got over 29 banks and funding sources. Money's everywhere for a good project and a good product. But that's, you've got to get the money in line. You've got the marketing and distribution in line. Without marketing and distribution, you're going to have a harder time getting the money. Who else needs to be on the team is a management team, an entrepreneurial team who's had success. We're about to launch Gravy Stack. It's going to be a kids bank. So I'm going to put a link in the description below for Gravy Stack. You can get into the beta test, but it's going to be not only a kids bank, it's going to be designed around never pay your kids an allowance. So it's going to be an online gamified NFT tokenized, call it Minecraft, Call of Duty, but for entrepreneurs and teaching your kids how to make money. Super, super cool. My point is we got massive, what's called a C-suite team. So that's what also causes you to get funding. Not only do you have to have one heck of a good product and have it tested and distribution channels for a lot of distribution quickly, you've got to have the fundability, and a management team can bring the fundability because of their resume. So you want a lot of good resumes. I mean, the Gravy Stack resume team is stacked. We got people from eBay, PayPal. I know we have somebody from Amazon. I mean, we have some massive skills and massive resumes on that team, which also allow us more fundability and more predictability of the product moving into distribution. So that's who you need on your team. Now, number 3, so where do you get a prototype designed? If you can do a 3D printer, that's going to be your probably safest and cheapest option. You can get small ones. My daughter has a small one. You can get large ones, depending on what you're going to do. To hire a lot of consultants in this space, and there are a lot, there's a lot of invention folks and prototype folks that I know of, really expensive. And for what? You haven't tested the product enough. If you don't have a good management team, if you don't have the funding, I mean, it's not the first way to spend some money. I wouldn't do it that way. You can send it out to China, been there, watch that go on with the cash flow game. They sent it to China in one box, in one piece, in one product. And before the thing was even printed and put back on a ship to send back to the United States so the cash flow game could get out, it was already out the back door of the China manufacturing and ripped off. You can say, well, I'll have international lawyers. Well, I've had international lawyers. I've actually trademarked like Live Out Loud in my name and brands across the world. Here's the new news that no one tells you about, and I doubt you'll find any accuracy on the internet. The real international space, for the most part, because I've been in some of these interesting challenges, is even though I put out trademarks across the world, this is an exact example, I went to Africa and got served a notice that I was actually infringing on their mark. About a couple hours later to go speak to thousands of people in a huge auditorium in Johannesburg. The problem was most countries have this thing called squatter rights, which means you could have come in first and had it, but if you aren't operational and creating money and revenue for the country or the city or the county you're in, whoever was there first and produced money and used the mark or used the prototype or used whatever first, they get rights. They get first rights. So welcome to international law. Again, challenges. So when I did the Millionaire Maker game, I sent it into, I think, like 10 different pieces across the country. We did send it to China and all over. So no one could put it together. One group made the parts, one group made the game board, another group made the cards, another group made the money. So then all of it more expensive to do, but it was all shipped back and was not ripped off the back door. So again, there are things that you have to put in line. And if you go to the last one, I'm not going to talk about IP protection quite yet. I'll come back to that. Even if you have the best intellectual property protection, trademark protection, again, most countries are going to win by squatters' rights unless you get over there, get a bank account, get a company, and get money into the country as fast as you can. So the last thing I want to say about prototype design is an online immersive design where you can actually do, like, it's more of a CAD, it's online 3D. So you can use something visual without putting a ton of money into it to get some feedback, get some focus groups, maybe get some pre-sales. hopefully attract management team, and hopefully attract your funding. So I would do all of those before you actually spend a lot of money. Now, if you're enjoying our conversation here, I need you to subscribe and click the notification button. Now, I want to speak to those of you who have been subscribed for a while. Our channel's been here for now going on about a year and 3-4 months. And a lot of you, you're subscribed, but then you're like, oh, I don't like the topic, I'm not watching. You have to watch every one of my topics. They're all necessary, and you never know when you need the information, and you never know when your kids want the information. So again, the thing that I've been talking a lot about lately is this is how you start conversations in your family. So have everyone in your family listen to the channel, and whether it's at breakfast the next day or dinner the night before or over the weekend. So what did you learn this week? What were the videos you enjoyed? What were the topics that had you interested? And make every one of the members of the family come up with a new thing. They can't say, oh, it was just good. What made it good? What was the content? Get them talking, especially your children, well, and you. Get them talking about money and content, not just, oh, it was good, it was cool. We know it's cool. What did they learn about it? All right, and then share it with a whole bunch of people, please, please. We need a ton of people in the right money conversation, and we are so committed to this channel 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification and like it, love it. Watch it. Also in the description below, I'm going to put a little link to binge watch. We are giving some incentives for people to binge watch tons and tons and tons of my videos. So please take advantage of that. I hope you binge watch before the holidays, and as the holidays come in, just spend days on my channel learning money, because you need to lean in and learn. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which is one of your biggest and most expensive mistakes, I wouldn't say it was a mistake for me to do all the marks and all the things that I did to protect my brand around the world early on, because I surged really, really fast. But I can tell you, I have the best intellectual property lawyer if you want to know who to use and how to use them and when to use them. And you do need to use them at certain times. I think some of you, I'm going to speak to the other side, you're too paranoid. You want everybody to sign NDAs. They aren't going to hold up in court. Like, that's a cute idea. You can do that. You can sign all this stuff away, non-competes, non-disclosures. I do some of it in some points. But here's the truth about people who really know how to run. We have the money and the speed and the teams to outperform most of you beginners. So the better thing is to get a mentor, get on the team of people who have the teams and the speed and the money and the access that can move you faster down the pipeline. But you could get really tangled up in 6-7 figures very quickly, depending on how you do your intellectual property. So to that point, if you want to know who they are, you want to know how we would mentor or work together, go to askloral.com and click on the link. You can ask any question 24/7. You can make a request and say, hey, I really want to talk to somebody about this prototype design or coming to an event. I also have a membership. So if you want more one-on-one time and group time with our Ask Loral, you can go there. So head on over there and let me help you. And let's do it, make some money and not launch poor. See you tomorrow.